One of the things you want to know before you come to Tokyo is how much money you're going to need for things like food, drink and train travel. So to give you an idea, I recorded everything I spent for 3 days. I'll talk you through the totals as we go along. All the amounts on the screen are for one person, and if you have any questions, just put them in the comments. If you like the look of any of the places, there's videos about them all on my channel. And as well as making videos about Japan, I'm also a designer. Lots of my designs are inspired by Japan, so take a look on cakeswithfaces.co.uk. On to the first day. Today we're going to Nakano Broadway to go shopping. First we've got a short train journey, just a few stops. It's 195 yen for 2 drinks, which is cheaper than in the vending machines. These big ones are normally 160 yen in vending machines. Maple melon pan. Looks good. It also looks pretty big actually. These kind of look like edamame. That was 162 yen for each of them. I just got 2 Love Live figures and a Hatsune Miku figure for 3,950 yen. Hatsune Miku, she was 1,800 yen. 2 figures from Love Live. I got Honika and Nico Nico Ni. Again, just a few stops back to the hotel. A short trip going out in the evening to Kichijoji, which isn't on this map, but it's about 13 minutes from Shinjuku. I've got the veggie bowl, which comes with rice, kimchi on the side. Everybody else has got the beef bowl, which is the Yoshinoya classic. Dinner was 1,000 yen each. Yoshinoya with meals for everybody and beers and sake. It was actually a pretty cheap meal because it's a fast food chain really. And back to the hotel on the train, a 13-minute trip. So today, individually the train tickets were pretty cheap, but they did add up, and I think this total is about what you'd expect for a big city. Food and drink was really cheap. I didn't really have a proper breakfast or lunch, and I had a fast food style dinner, so that was pretty cheap today. And I've put the total for shopping separately because what you spend on shopping is up to you. On to day 2. Today we're going to Yokohama, which is a day trip outside Tokyo, about 45 minutes on the train, and we're going to the Cup Noodles Museum and the Ramen Museum. 228 yen for an onigiri and a fruit smoothie for breakfast in the convenience store. A longer train trip outside Tokyo from Shinjuku to Yokohama, about 45 minutes. Look, here's my taiyaki. 500 yen to get into the Cup Noodles Museum and 300 yen to make your own cup noodles. I also spent 160 yen on a Fanta grape from the vending machine. A couple of changes on local trains to get to Shin Yokohama for the Ramen Museum. 310 yen for an entry ticket to the Ramen Museum. 670 yen for a half-size vegetarian ramen. It's not that small actually. 500 yen for a gin and tonic at the Ramen Museum. 930 yen for a full bowl of vegetarian ramen. We're having a Okinawan guava sours. And back to Tokyo, a 45-minute train journey. Today I took a longer trip outside the city, and the total for trains isn't too different from when I stayed within Tokyo. I've found that trains within the Tokyo area are really reasonable. For example, when I went to Mount Takao, which you can see in a separate video, that was an hour's train trip and that was really cheap. Intercity travel is expensive, but within the Tokyo region it's not too bad. Food and drink comes to more than yesterday. I didn't really have a proper lunch, although I did have that delicious taiyaki, and dinner at the Ramen Museum was more like dinner and a half, and I did have a couple of drinks, but the total isn't too bad. I've put the total for entry fees separately, and all the prices I'm showing are all for one person. Day 3, today I'm going to Akihabara to go figure shopping, and you can see more of all these places in my other videos. Breakfast from the convenience store was about 916 yen. I had some pineapple and a water. Phil's got a honey drink and what's left of a katsu sandwich and it was about half each. A trip on the metro across the city, basically one side of central Tokyo to the other. We've gone from Higashi Shinjuku to Ueno Akachimachi. One stop on the metro from Akachimachi to Akihabara. Soy patty, fries and melon soda. Lunch at Moss Burger is 3,420 yen for 2 people, having a burger, fries and a drink. I found Momiji Manju Kit Kats and green tea matcha Kit Kats. They were from a gift shop, the Akihabara, and these packs are 350 yen each. I got a Fanta Grape from the vending machine for 160 yen. Most vending machine drinks are between 130 and 160 yen. 2 meals, 1 side and 1 drink at Coco Curry, 1,915 yen. It is a bit of a fast foodie place, so it was quite a cheap meal tonight. Back to the hotel on the metro, again from one side of central Tokyo to the other. Here's what I got from Akihabara today. 1,280 yen, 1,980 yen, and I got these gachapon figures. Today on the train I went from one side of central Tokyo to the other and then back again, and I think the price is what you'd expect for a big city. Food and drink was pretty cheap. Today I had a convenience store breakfast and then fast food, lunch and dinner. Usually I'd have convenience store breakfast and lunch and then a more restaurant style meal in the evening, which would cost slightly more. So today was quite cheap for food. I was trying to capture a typical day for you, but it seems there is no typical day when you're away. So hopefully you find this useful anyway. And again, I put the total for shopping separately. The important thing is that cheap food in Tokyo is really good quality, and there's a lot more variety in fast food and street food than there is in the UK. Obviously, how much you spend on buying things and souvenirs and shopping is completely up to you, but I've included what I've spent to give you an idea of how much it is. The expensive part of your trip to Japan is going to be your flights and accommodation. Then once you're here, it's not too much for food and transport. Long distance transport can be a bit more, but day to day, you don't really need too much in your budget. I think Tokyo isn't as expensive as it's perceived to be. Lots of people think it's a really pricey place, but I don't think it's more expensive than other major cities, especially London. So hopefully this has given you a bit of an idea.